We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to
First available helper.
That's where you come in.
establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, be my...
On 882 6PR, this is Perth Tonight with Chris Ilsley.
Yeah, we're doing the technology thing. Ben Aylett's here, so if you have any technological issues, he's a man to have a chat to. He can sort it out.
Yes.
Well, I hope you can.
Well, I'd hope so too.
I've got to say, you generally speaking don't seem to have much trouble sorting this stuff out once you identify what it is.
Yeah.
And often, sometimes you look at something and think it's a major problem. How am I ever going to deal with this? And quite often, the solution is actually decidedly annoyingly simple.
Yeah, that is the case sometimes. So it's knowing is half the battle, as they say. So once you've discovered what the problem is, it's really relatively easy to fix it, thankfully, because that's the way technology has gone. So when it comes to fixing things, it's usually a pretty straightforward solution. It's either flipping a switch or changing a setting or just reloading things, or hey, even just restarting your computer does the trick.
Yeah.
Just turn it off and back on again.
Is that sometimes one of the great tricks that before you do anything else, before you scream for help, first thing, turn her off, turn it back on, just to make sure.
I know, as stupid as it sounds, it actually works a lot of the time. It puts the computer...
The good old-fashioned turn her off, turn her on. There
so it puts the device back into some sort of like a zero state or beginning square, I guess, and then we can work out where the problem is. And 9 times out of 10, just the simple act of resetting a device or restarting a computer, it just erases that problem and it goes away, and we sort of shrug and say, oh, well, that's just a glitch, and we just carry on with our day. It's usually as simple as that. Very rarely does software alter itself to the point where it stops working. It's extremely rare for that to happen. It's more to do with maybe hardware degrading.
Yes.
Or somebody somewhere changing a setting. So clicking something that's got a knock-on effect. So
How hard is it to trace something like that when it's happened?
It varies. So sometimes it's dead easy. So I might sit down with a client and we'll go through the process of the steps leading up to when things started going bad, and they might be dropping clues along the way. So one of the most common problems I see is hard drives failing. So they say, oh, the computer started running a little bit slower. And then this time there's like some weird stuff appeared in a document, but I didn't think anything about it. I just restarted the computer and carried on again. But it keeps on getting slower and slower and slower. This is usually because the hard drive is degrading and it's starting to lose information. And so when people say things like that, they're little cues for me, and I can usually work out what the problem is just by going on the description of what's led up to it. If it's something sudden, it's probably less to do with the hard drive and more to do with something failing inside the computer itself, something electronic.
See, sometimes things are frustratingly simple, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. 92211 what's something that's happened to a piece of your technology? Possibly we're talking about a computer, but any piece of technology that you use. Yeah. Something that's happened with it or happens with it, because we could be talking about something current. That is not a big deal, doesn't stop it being used, but you find decidedly frustrating.
Yes.
You just think to yourself, oh, God, this is going to drive me insane.
Yeah, and actually it's probably not a bad idea to share this sort of these gripes that you might have, because it could lead us to finding a better way to do things.
Yeah.
This is where inventions come from. You find a problem and you fix it.
Yeah, sometimes, like we say, often some of the problems are nowhere near as big as we imagine.
Yeah.
922 11882 is our telephone number. G'day, Chris.
G'day, Chris. G'day, Ben.
G'day.
Hey, first world problem, I suppose. But look, on my computer, when I'm accessing a newspaper and I'm on the forum, and I'm putting down, I've written a letter in, or I've done a post, press send it away, fine, comes up, everything's working right. I'm on NBN, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And then I've got about 5 of these things open at once. I've got 5 pages open at one time, but it can be 1 or 2. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And so I'm writing letters into 5 particular pages, or it could be 1 or 2.
Right.
I go away and leave it for about 5-10 minutes, and then I go back and I have to refresh it just to see what the responses are to that, or 10 minutes.
Oh,
and
okay.
It comes up with a doc. It says it first of all it goes into I don't know how to explain it, but it basically the page disappears, and then it comes up, and then I try and revert it.
Yep.
And then it comes up with a blank screen, and it's got document.html bracket 1 times 1 bracket. And that's what it says. And it happens, and it's only been recent. It's only been the last, I've been doing this for a couple of years now since I've been on NBN.
Yep.
And it's only been in the last 2 months where it's consistent now.
Okay. What's the website, if you don't mind saying?
This is the Australian. Normally the Australian newspaper, yep.
Okay. And this only happens when you're logged in and you're trying to post comments to a story?
No, when I actually go back and refresh it to get either more comments that are coming through, or comments that are addressing what I'm writing about.
Okay.
Or but it's only when I leave it for, it's fine when I'm using it all the time, but when I leave it for any period of time, say 10, 15 minutes, it folds on me. And it happens all the time now, and it's really driving me nuts.
All right. Well, Chris, that's an interesting one. What I think is happening here is that the website, when you log into a website, there's a lot of information that goes backwards and forwards, and some of that information is what we call a session. And that session, it basically gives the time that you're connected to that computer, like a certain number of minutes where that connection is active and valid. And that session can expire. So after 3 to 5 minutes, it is possible that the server will say, well, Chris has been sitting here with a page open, it's done nothing for 3 minutes. I'm going to assume that he's no longer interested. And it kind of drops the connection, and you only notice this when you refresh. So it's it's kind of a security measure, kind of like a visitor tracking measure. It's these little bits, these little quirks that are put in, and they don't quite sort of lend themselves to people getting a comment section open and then leaving it open, because it's all session and time.
And remember, if you're talking about files that size, I mean, the number of people who could be involved in that could get quite large. So they basically say, unless you're there and unless you're active, they say good night, Irene, essentially. Yeah,
that's another good point. So as you're running a web server, that web server is responsible for not only serving those pages to the end user, but they're also responsible for keeping those connections open. And each connection, and obviously each page, but each connection takes up a certain amount of resources. Now, with a website like the West Australian, you'll be talking about thousands of connections per second. Obviously, if they don't want to have those connections left open, because they'll soon run out of resources and the website will go down.
Yep. Thank you very much for that, Chris.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a very good one. G'day, Melvin.
Hi, how are you going, Chris?
Good, mate. Ben's listening to you. Go for it.
Yeah, that's good. Last year, you may recall, I rang up about my high sensor because it was changing the colour keep on coming on and not the TV.
Yeah.
However, we got it replaced. Now this one,
all right,
got a high sense. The same. Don't turn it off, love. I need to see the line. It's got down for a foot from the top.
Yeah.
It has this very, very fine line, runs right across the screen.
Left to right?
Well, I don't know if it's left to right or right to left. It's just there.
Okay.
It goes right across the screen.
Horizontally, thanks. Okay.
Left to right.
Yeah, okay.
What could cause that, and is it detrimental to the TV?
Well, is it detrimental to the TV? I'm not really sure. Is it a really, really fine line?
Very, very, very fine line.
So it takes
like a piece of cotton.
Oh, okay.
Right along.
So it takes a little bit of effort to find it. Okay. It may not be anything. It could be a manufacturing defect or some sort of quirk about the TV. I'm not too sure if long-term it's going to cause you a problem, but I would expect that should be covered under warranty.
Yeah, I'd go back and make a complaint too. Thanks very much for that, Mel. Appreciate it.
If you missed it, you'll find it at 6pr.com.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to.
First available helper.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it for a present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app.
Print image.
And we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in.
That dog is way too old.
So, would you care to be my eyes?
This is Perth Tonight with Chris Ilsley on 882 6PR.
Yeah, one of these days, off-air chatter is going to find its way on air.
Oh, that'll be a great day.
Oh, I think it'll be absolutely hilarious.
Fun.
Yes.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll wonder about how we do this. Hey, listen, speaking about how we do stuff.
Yes.
You have sought to answer a question that people have asked before.
Yes.
How do you set up your own systems? In other words, how does Ben Aylett do it?
How do I compute? Okay. Well, someone did ask the question, and I realised it's been like over 25 years that I've been in this game, and someone has actually stopped and said, so, Ben, how do you set up your computers? And over the years, I've managed to work out...
Looks a bit like a cockpit of a Boeing at Ben's place, really. I've seen it a few times. And it just kind of grows, and his wife daren't go in there in case she gets electrocuted.
Yeah, actually, that system's been torn down. I'm now just down to a laptop and then virtual machines in the cloud. So that's that. But anyway, my day-to-day...
It's more fun having 1,000 screens everywhere, isn't it?
It is, but
it's so much more fun.
Way more expensive. Super expensive. But anyway...
Yeah, that's true.
We'll carry on.
Yeah.
Okay, so... I've put together on my website over at benaylett.com, you can have a look at the basic setup that I usually run with, and it's set around a philosophy where I've got to be comfortable with that laptop or computer or whatever being lost, stolen, burnt, destroyed, and just basically lost at a moment's notice. And I have all of my systems available as a backup. So there is a backup that I keep, and there's also all my working stuff is kept in the cloud. So I use cloud-based systems. So
and the reason why I use cloud-based systems, apart from anything else, is because if something goes wrong, if your system were to go completely haywire or somehow get destroyed, lost, stolen, or otherwise rendered incapacitated, it would be in the cloud, and so therefore once you connected, all would be good.
Yeah, so if you go on over to the website and have a look at the story, you'll see that my daily driver is Windows. So I use Windows daily. I make sure I'm running the latest build and the latest version with all the latest security patches applied.
In other words, when it says we have some auto updates to do, what you say is, yes, go ahead and do them.
Yes, please. That's right. So a fully patched system is way harder to compromise than something that's out of date. So that's step number one, staying secure. As far as antivirus and anti-malware, this might raise a few eyebrows.
Yes.
I don't use any.
You just use the system from Microsoft, don't you? The one that's built into Windows 10.
That's right. I use Windows Defender. It comes built in with Windows 10, and it is. I use it and I trust it because it is the only antivirus product that has actually able to do what's called sandboxing within Windows 10. So no other antivirus product does that. And because Microsoft make Windows Defender as well as Windows, they know how everything works together. And I actually trust it more than I would an off-the-shelf system.
Kind of makes sense, really.
That's right.
G'day, John.
G'day, and your friend there. I've just forgotten his name, but I've just turned the radio on in the car.
Oh, that's right, John. It's Ben. How you going, mate?
Oh, good, mate. My friend's got a desktop with a HP Pavilion.
Yep.
24 or C24 monitor.
Uh-huh.
The whole thing, because of the cabling, did a swan dive on the floor. The power unit appears to be working okay.
Yep.
But the monitor, when you turn it on, it's black background.
Yep.
And a series of vertical multicolored lines.
Ooh.
And then across the bottom looks like a graph display, angular graph display.
Yeah, we're just about out of time, John, so I'll get Ben to explain as much as he can, only because time's chasing us down the tunnel, my friend. Go for it.
Okay, it looks like that monitor is gone. If it's displaying those sorts of pictures when you're supposed to be looking at Windows or whatever, I'd say that monitor is pretty much shot and you need to get a replacement. That's pretty much the short answer right there.
All right, yeah. It's one of those things where you hate it when it happens.
Yes.
I've got my phone in one of those carry things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your cases, I guess.
Yeah.
It's turned out to be the best move I ever made. It's already paid for itself.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've got the same thing. So I use a life-proof case for my phone, and they pay for themselves very, very quickly.
Beautiful. All right, don't forget benaylett.com is the website. That's also where you'll find all of Ben's contact information. benaylett.com. And my friend, we shall have a chat to you next week.
I'll catch you then.
You are our eyes.